Hey, what's up everyone? Morey Croson here, and today we're going to be breaking down Abby Steiner and Shericka Jackson in their 200-meter finals. And we're going to start the video right now. This is the newest edition of the Performance Lab.
Reach your individual goals.
You don't want to just talk about straight line speed. We also want to talk about your ability to be quick. We break down your video.
Let's make you into the quarterback I know you can become.
Okay, and before we hop into this, I just want to say if you like the information, click that thumbs up down below, subscribe to the channel. If you want to find out more about what we do and how we can help you as a sprinter, go and check out the description down below. We do offer a lot of great things in terms of programs and exercises and breakdowns just like this to be able to help you improve as a sprinter. I want to change it up a little bit and start off with this and see if we get any more participation with any of that type of stuff. So anyway, we're going to hop right into the breakdown. We got Shericka Jackson right here. I will say we also have Elaine Thompson right here, because we'll go and look into that. And then we have Abby Steiner right here. We'll start off with Abby Steiner. I will say that it looks like she didn't have as good of a start as she typically does. I think she popped up a little bit. I know we don't get a great view from this angle, but I just feel like she's really pretty far upright in her movement pattern, right? Just from like looking at her body move, because then it almost seems like here she's like trying to stay down, right? So this is a common compensation that I see when people, feel like they didn't get a great start, right? Or feel like they maybe popped up too early out of their start, then they try to like compensate by bringing themselves back downwards, right? Where you can see all the other women are a lot further into their drive phase, where she's like now starting to get into her drive phase, and I think that ended up being a bit of a compensation, especially because we've seen her in some of the other heats be further out in front when she first started, right? So she wasn't in a great position here, especially as she got around the turn. She's probably in 4th or 5th place, right? She's not in a great spot where we've seen her, again, out really far in front in these places in the past. Okay, and then we're going to go look at Shericka Jackson, and I think she had a really good start. What's evident to me is she just generates a ton of horizontal force. I mean, again, we look at Elaine Thompson, and Elaine Thompson to me had better start mechanics, right? So we can see Elaine Thompson is really quick. She's about to get this 3rd step down, right? Where Shericka Jackson's a little bit late in getting that foot down, okay? And she still, though, is able to reach very, very quickly. So she's later with her steps, right? But she is creating a great amount of horizontal force, right? She's getting that foot out in front and really generating a lot of force back behind. So I think she might be utilizing some of her long legs to her advantage there, right? She's 5'8", okay? And so she does a great job of being able to get those hips through really, really early on. You can see how fast she is at being able to get pretty straight with her legs, right? Where you can see, like Elaine Thompson is still pretty bent during that foot contact, right? In comparison to what we're seeing with Shericka Jackson. She's getting very upright very early on with those hips, which is really what you want to be doing, right? So to me, when it comes to the start, the main thing is we want to be able to create horizontal force, right? And we want to be able to, horizontal force, sorry, I know you can't probably see that too good, right? So horizontal force, that's horizontal right there. And then we also want to make sure that we are getting our hips up. Okay, so the faster and more effectively we can create horizontal force and get our hips up, the better we're going to be. And then from there, we also want to be able to be quick in doing that. Okay, so we don't want to end up being really long with or taking a ton of time as we're doing that, or else obviously we're going to get left behind. But if we can create great horizontal force and get our hips up, we should be in a good spot. Right, so we can see that Shericka Jackson in this case is in a really, really good position, right? And what's awesome about this is I made a video probably about 2-3 months ago when Abby Steiner won the NCAAs, or actually no, I think it was just the SEC championship, and I compared her to Elaine Thompson, and everybody was like, oh, how could you compare her to Elaine Thompson? Like, that's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, now she, at this race, had the fastest time in the world in 2022, right? And then Shericka Jackson just passed her up with having the new fastest time in the world. But point being is she is actually in competition for this year, obviously, with the Elaine Thompson, Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, like all the tops, right? Like she's a legitimate contender to be able to potentially win the world championships and or at the very least compete with some of these long time great women, which is going to be super exciting to be able to watch. I will say that, in my opinion, I would still think that Elaine Thompson ends up being probably the favorite here. I just feel like she's like nursing something, so as long as she can come back from whatever it is that she's trying to heal from, I think she's going to be in a good spot here. So I'm going to go into this point of the race just because I kind of marked that point down, as well as this with Shericka Jackson. Okay, so what we're going to look to see here is the landing. Okay, so we look at Shericka Jackson here first. You can see, I mean, she just does a great job of being able to really reach with those legs, right? Generating great horizontal force. I mean, the 200 meters is definitely her race to be able to really excel, and shows her talents really, really well. So she's off the ground here at 0.70, okay, 370, and she touches back on the ground with the right leg at, you know, probably a little bit before that 0.0. So I actually said 0.06 here, and then she was back off by about 0.16. Okay, which is pretty effective, right? From when her foot hits the ground to being able to push right back off the ground, being in, you know, 0.46 is definitely not bad. And her leg cycle being at 0.36 is really good, especially for her height, right? I mean, we saw it like with Noah Lyles, he was at 0.4, okay? So a little bit longer, but he's obviously taller. And he's you know, it's different when it comes to men and female, obviously, in their racing strategies, right? And she does a great job of being able to, even though she has those long strides, being able to still cycle those legs quickly, right? Because 0.36 with how long of a stride she has is excellent. Okay, we'll go back into the left one too, and this is where we'll actually get into Abby Steiner's as well. And so she's landing at 0.83, okay, 3.83. She's transitioning off at 9.3, okay, so under the 0.93 for contact time. She touches back at 0.30, okay, so we're at the 0.37, so right around that same time period, and then off again at 0.40. So a lot of great things here. What stands out to me though, so we got 0.37, okay, so this one's going to be closer to 0.47 in terms of the entire leg cycle. Again, really good numbers there. And the amount of time though, so we look to see this number, right, and this number. So she really only spends about 0.13 seconds off the ground, right? So that's going to be something to be able to kind of look at a little bit more in depth when we look to see Abby Steiner here. So we got 7.71, okay, when she's coming off the ground, lands at 0.8, okay, that's not bad. And then is again back off the ground by 1.8. Really under 1.8, right? We know she's still on the ground here, right? But she's just about to get off the ground. So it'd probably be closer to like 1.6 would be my guess, right? So that'd be a 0.08 for contact time. Really, really good. And her entire leg cycle is in that same 0.47 time period. So the thing with Abby Steiner is that she is a little bit shorter, right? She is only 5'6", right, in comparison to Shericka Jackson, who is 5'8". So for Shericka Jackson to be able to get some of these same numbers is really, really impressive. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so she's at 0.88 about when she's landing here. Okay, probably a little bit sooner, probably closer to probably 8.6, right, when she's landing, and then she's off, you know, around that 9.4 area. Okay, probably a little bit longer. It's hard to see if she's 100% off the ground right there. And then she touches back at 3.1. Okay, so similar to what we've been seeing. And then we'll just real quick see that she's back off. Yeah, so she's got just amazing foot contact time, right? So the big thing that stands out with her is great foot contact time. But what I like about Abby Steiner is look at how much time that she's spending off of the ground, right? Points. So we talked earlier about, you know, being able to look into this, right? 7.1 to 8.6, right? So that's 0.15 seconds off the ground, you know, give or take a couple seconds there, but that's really, really good, right? A lot of times we aim to be like 0.12, 0.13, and sometimes even with female sprinters, we're getting closer into like that 0.12 range. But the fact that she is able to get into closer to 0.15 here, it really ended up benefiting her at the end to be able to allow her to finish. Okay, and what's important about that is it didn't have a big impact on her leg cycle, right? So even though she is spending a good amount of time off of the ground, doesn't mean that her leg cycle is getting into, right, the 0.4 ranges, right? I mean, depending on her height, there could end up being a benefit for her there, right? But like this is 0.37 from when the foot hits the ground to when it touches, or when the foot leaves the ground to when it touches back down. And again, those were a little bit, you know, on both sides. Well, 0.61 is probably pretty accurate right there. But in terms of when the foot hits the ground, like that's 0.94, still hasn't probably hit the ground yet. So, you know, it might be closer to 0.96, which would be 0.35. So she's cycling the legs a little bit faster than Shericka Jackson, but Abby Steiner is getting more distance, so she has more height off of the steps. Okay, so she's doing either she's really gifted in ways in terms of her horizontal force and her ability to generate a lot of force in the ground, or she is working a lot on plyometrics, being able to do broad jumps, maybe single leg broad jumps, depth jumps, things like that, because plyometrically she is very, very, very impressive. Very impressive. That 0.15 is not easy to be able to spend off the ground, right? That's the amount of time. So when that foot leaves the ground, boom, until this other foot hits the ground, 0.15 seconds. That's really, really impressive. Okay, so here we got about 0.04 when her left foot's hitting the ground, right? And then she doesn't hit the ground, right? She still hasn't hit the ground yet. Okay, and that would be at 0.14, but she's about to hit the ground, right? 0.18 there. Okay, so it's a little bit after 0.14. Again, that is very impressive in terms of how much time she's spending off the ground, right? We look to see Shericka Jackson, 0.40. Okay, and she's hitting the ground at 5.3, right? Because she is hitting the ground there. Okay, now she's starting to transition off. Okay, and she's off by 0.63. So, you know, Abby Steiner, I think, has two things really going for her. One, foot contact. Two, time off the ground. Very impressive. Shericka Jackson has really two things going for her. One, excellent height. And for her height, she has a very, very fast turnover rate. So she's moving her legs very quickly, especially with her height. And that's one of the things that Usain Bolt had. One of the things that was very impressive about him. So yeah, again, guys, if you like the information, go ahead and click that thumbs up down below. Subscribe to the channel. Would love to hear who you think is going to win the 200-meter final. As of right now, and I'll have to update this when we get closer to the actual final. But as of right now, I'm going to say Elaine Thompson. If it's not Elaine Thompson based off of health, I'm going to go with Abby Steiner. I think Abby Steiner could go ahead and pull off the upset just because of some of the things that we talked about here today. And I don't think she had a great start. I really think that she can still improve on her start in some of the positions there. I mean, if she has not a good start, Shericka Jackson is great out of her start. So it might end up being difficult for her. But if Abby Steiner has a great start, I think she could end up doing a very, very, very great job in her 200-meter. Again, thanks for watching. If you want to find out more about what we do, check out the description down below. The speed breakdown, the speed program, all these things to be able to help you in understanding how to become a better sprinter. Get very technical into some of the specifics here in terms of what it takes to be able to improve and what are some of the exercises, the drills, the things that are going to be able to benefit you the most. And, you know, really want to be able to help sprinters in being able to get to higher top speeds and understand exactly what are the mechanics to be able to get there. So thanks for watching, guys, as always, and we'll talk to you soon.